In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to install and set up the Lettuce Entertainment Shop system. So when you open up your place, what you'll have here in Workspace is a folder called Installer Assets and a script called Installer. Open up this installer script, Control A to copy everything, to select everything, Control C to copy. And then we want to come down to our command bar at the bottom here, paste in that code with Control V, click Enter. And that will install the assets into our game in a whole bunch of different places. We can delete this installer script. We don't need that anymore. And so what we have here in our workspace is we have a weapon shop set up here and a weapon rack. So I'm going to go over with you guys how to set up the weapon rack first. So let me just show you what that looks like. So when I walk up to this weapon rack, I can see the name of the item, the stats associated with this item, and I can either purchase it for 1 life or I can purchase it forever using Robux or cash. And cash is the custom currency that we have in this game, in this system. But this is editable, and we will go over that as well. So with this weapon rack, when we go up to the properties, we see here that we have a weapon rack tag. So make sure when you guys are making your own weapon racks that the model of the weapon rack has the weapon rack tag on it. And inside of our weapon rack, we have another part called purchase prompt. And you can see here that the purchase prompt is here, right in the middle of our weapon rack. And that's because, I'll show you guys again, when we have our UI showing the information, there is this white line that appears that attaches the weapon rack to the UI, and that ends right where that purchase prompt part is. So it's important that that is in a good looking spot so that this line renders in the right spot. On this purchase prompt, what we have here is a purchase prompt attribute. So that's very important. Purchase prompt tag. That's very important to have. And then we have some attributes called item name and item type. So in this case, we've said that this weapon rack sells an item type of weapon, and the item name is AK-47. So what does this mean? If I go up to my Lettuce server folder in server script service and open up shop system, and then open up item settings, we have a module in here called weapon. And you can see here that this is the same item type weapon. We have item settings weapon here. And in here, we can see all of the options we have associated with our weapon settings. And this is specific for the shop. So you might have weapon settings that talk about damage and range and whatever other weapon settings you have. But this module here is meant for shop settings, for the shop system specifically. So first here, we see that we are selling 2 weapons in the game right now. We have the M16 and the AK-47. And for each one, we define a name. So what we have here, this M16, in server storage, we have a tools folder. And you can see here that we have a tool in here called M16, AK-47, and whatnot. So this string here, this M16, means this M16 tool. But when we display it in the UI, we want it to say M16 rifle. So we have a name setting here. We also have a bunch of different price settings. So if you recall from the UI, there was a button that was available under the 1 life section. And then we had also a own section that had a cash and Robux option. And this is where we can set up those prices. So theoretically, the system supports an infinite type of purchases or sales. I don't know how you want to define that, but I think the most common one that you guys are looking for is a 1 life and an own option. So this 1 life option, right now we've said you can buy it for 100 cash. But if we want to set up a Robux version of this, say maybe we want to set up a dev product that you can sell, we can say here, we're going to add a new 1 life option called Robux. And then we're going to make this a new table. And we're going to type in here type equals product with a capital P, and ID equals your dev product ID. This is just a random number. So when you actually create your dev product on the Roblox website, you want to put in your ID here. And now if you open up the UI, you'd be able to buy this M16 rifle for 1 life using that dev product, and it would just work right away automatically. And you can do the same thing for game passes, but instead of the type being product, you can do type is game pass. This is also where we can do custom currencies. So cash is the currency that comes with the system by default. Say you want to set up a credit system, so you have credits in your game. What you can do here is you can say credits equals 500. So you can buy this 1 life version of the M16 rifle for 500 credits. But how do you connect your credit system to the system? All right, so let's go over to our currency handlers folder. And in here is where you can set up custom currencies. So right now, this system comes with a cash module. And in here, you can see the system also comes with a custom currency system that we'll also get to. But when somebody buys an item in the game using cash, so if they bought this 100 cash item, 1 life purchase, it would run this module. We get the player's money, see if they have enough money, and then remove the money because it made the purchase. So if you had a custom, say, credits system in your game, what you need to do is you can copy and paste this cash folder or cash module by hitting Control D, and then we can rename this to credits. It's very important that this module has the exact same name as the option that you set up here. So credits with an S here, credits with an S here. And then here's where you can do all your custom code. So maybe you have a credits module. So you can have like, maybe you have game.server script service.credits, and you have a credits module here. Then you can do, like you can get the amount of credits that the player has, and then you can remove how much money the item costs. So with this function, you get the player and the amount. If you're not following this is probably something you need to hire a, kind of like an entry-level scripter to do for you. This is fairly basic code, but I know some of you guys might not know how to do this. We can also help you in our Discord server if you have questions on how you can set up your own custom currency. If you want to use our built-in currency, it does come with a currency service. So once again, there's no way, the system does not come with a way to automatically give people money, but we do expose API for you to call. So if you are, if your game is a quest system and you want to award money at the end of a quest, you can call currency service, add money, and give the player and the amount. And that will add money to that player, and it all saves in data stores and whatnot properly. If you want to disable the currency system that comes with the shop system, set this disable variable here to true, and that will completely disable the currency system that comes with the shop system from your game. Just make sure you also edit the weapon settings so that you add in your own custom currency here for sales. All right, so that talks about pricing. We also have a stats setting here. So we can have an infinite amount of stats. Now there's a kind of a soft limit here, because if you have too many stats, the UI looks a bit weird. So I recommend keeping it to like 3 or 4 stats. But realistically, you can do whatever you want. We support 3 different types of stats. So this is better shown in the AK-47 example. We can have a percent, a number, or a string. So if it's a percent, we have a value here of 30. So this would be 30%. So in our UI, we'd have a bar that is 30% full. If it's a number, in the UI, you just see a number 80. And if it's a string, then you just see like a word that says whatever your value is. In this case, very fast. And then you can also set out the layout order. So 1, 2, 3, 4 would mean that damage is first, reload speed second, and so on. So you can also edit the order of your stats that way. Up here at the very top of our weapons settings, we also have an items folder definition. So the reason why we have to have this setting here is because our items are stored on the server. So when we want to display these items in our UI, we need, in our viewport frames to get the previews, we need to expose just the right items to the client from the server. So we need to define where our items are. So here we can say all of our weapons are in server storage.tools. And you can see here in server storage.tools, this is our folder that contains all of our tools. We also need to define which options are permanent purchase options. So in this case, by default, the system comes with own as one of the permanent purchase options. And the reason why we need to define this is because it will automatically data save purchases that are marked to be permanent. So if you buy this M16 rifle with your 200 cash or this Game Pass, it will automatically mark that as a permanent purchase, and you will have access to it when you come back the next time you play. And this show equipped button if owned setting means if you own the item, the UI will have an equip button. And this is useful for weapons because, if you own the item, you want to be able to equip it from the shop potentially. If you want to disable that, you can, if you have another way to give weapons. But most cases, this is really nice. If you have like a vehicle shop, which if you own the vehicle system, there'll be a video on how to set up a vehicle shop as well. If you have a vehicle system, you might not want an equipped button there because that doesn't really make sense for a vehicle system. So that goes over the main settings here. If you're setting up a custom item to be sold here, so maybe you want to set up a Jetpack Shop. So what you need to do for a Jetpack Shop is you need to come over to your item settings here, make a new module, set up all of your Jetpack settings in the exact same format that we have our weapon settings here. Then in purchase handlers, you also need to make a new module here. So let's look at how we set up the weapon purchase handler. This vehicle one should not be there. So the weapon purchase handler here. So up here we have a function on purchase. So this runs every time a player makes a purchase that is a weapon. And this is also after the currency has been taken care of. So by the time you get to this point, we know that the player has enough money, or is, they've purchased the item, and we can proceed with awarding them the item. So other things to consider here in this module is this get owned items function. This is a very important function that you must have in your handler. The system is going to call this function to know which items that aren't permanent that your system or that your custom handler should let this player access. So in this case, if a player buys something for 1 life, we want to have the player have access to the item for their entire life. So when a player buys a weapon, we check to see if it's a 1 life purchase, and then we add it to a cache. And then when we get the items, we return all the items from that cache for that player. Now, we also have some other helper functions in here, like player added, character removing, and whatnot. So in character removing, here's where we clear the cache. And we also have this equip item function. So if you have this setting up here, show equip button if owned, you need to also have in your handler an equip item function. So if they click that equip button, what happens? In this case, it finds a tool and gives it to them. So that's how you set up your custom shops on the back end side. And now we can talk about how to set it up on the front end side. So here is our weapon wall, which is just a weapon shop. And here we have a part called interact part, which has a physical shop prompt tag and an item type attribute. So here we define it is a weapon shop. Now inside of our items folder, this is very important that you have a folder named items in this exact hierarchy. Inside of here, we have an AK-47 and M16 rifle. So the names of the models inside this item category will tell the system which items are inside of this shop. So the names of these items need to be the exact same as the settings that we set up earlier. So, this M16 and AK-47 settings. So that's why we named these models that. And each model also has an attribute called order. So the AK-47 has an order of 2, M16 has an order of 1. That just means we want to see the M16 first and then the AK-47 second. So if you had like a Jetpack Shop, for example, you could add in your Jetpack models here, make sure the names of the models are all correct, and then set up the order property as well. You also want to set a primary part on your models. So for in this case, each gun has a handle, and that is the model's primary part. And the reason why we need a primary part is because the camera needs a reference to position itself correctly. So I'm going to go back in game here and show you guys what this shop looks like. So we can interact with this gray brick to open up the shop. And we see the M16 first because that had an order of 1. And then we have the AK-47 second. And here too, we can also see that we set up that 500 credits purchase, and it is showing up correctly here. But that is, that's an old thing that we already talked about. And so we also have the stats here that you can see. So all the stats that you set up in that item settings will also be shown here. And you can see what I wanted to show you guys mostly was the camera is, it smoothly animates to the right spot. So we need to tell the camera how to get there. And that's why that primary part is so important. So inside of our shop system in replicated storage, so replicated storage, let us common shop system, we have a physical shop settings module. And here's where you can set up different names of shops. So in here I have 2 examples of a vehicle shop and a weapon shop. And now the vehicle shop doesn't come with the system. You need the vehicle system to have the vehicle shop. But the weapon wall is what we're using. So if you look here, the name of this model is weapon wall. So interact part is like the part that kind of tells the system this is a shop. But the model that contains interact part is named weapon wall. So we can say here, weapon wall has the name of that shop is weapon shop, and then it has a camera offset of this. So it rotates the camera a bit and then zooms it out. You might need also a scripter to do this for you to set up the correct measurements here, or you can kind of trial and error to see what works for you. But the reason why we need to have that primary part is because the camera uses that part as a reference. So we'll have our primary part, and then in this case, it will rotate 90 degrees and then move back 5 studs. And in the vehicle shop example, I didn't need to rotate the camera. I just need to move it up, back, and to the left. So that's how you can set up physical shops. If you have any questions about how to set that up, please send a message in our Discord server, and we can help you out there. And I think that's everything that we need to cover for this video. Like I said, if there's any questions at all, please reach out to us on Discord.